So this is Tory candidate for London Mayor Susan Hall taking calls on LBC because apparently she's a glutton for punishment. Last time this happened, it didn't really go well. The fact that she got called out and absolutely ranched by Nick Ferrari, of all people, as a Tory, shows you how terrible she is as a candidate. There's a reason why 6 months ago or whatever it was, Sadiq Khan was polling at like 30-something%. He's now polling at 50%. Sadiq Khan is now polling at 50% for the mayoral elections. And I think part of that is down to just how awful Susan Hall is. So this should be incredibly funny. Let's go.
Conservative candidate Susan Hall. And what an appropriate time, because it is 100 days to go before the London mayoral elections. Now, I know if you're listening outside of London, you might be thinking, what? But it's of huge relevance if you see how in many times in this city, whether it comes to, and I'm just telling you, I'm not giving any political flavour this, things such as congestion charging or ULEZ or policing, obviously you're going to look to a city such as London and it's important. So that's why it's good to have Susan Hall here. Good to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Before we go to the first caller, which will be Hassan, just one from me. Over the weekend, we understand that the current mayor, the man you're challenging, Labour's Sadiq Khan, called for a youth mobility agreement with the EU or a relaxation of post-Brexit visa rules that restrict travel and the ability to work in other European countries. Some commentators are suggesting he's trying to undo Brexit or trying to look at rejoining the EU. You're going to be fighting him politically. Your view on that?
Whenever he's in trouble, he refers back to Brexit, which he hated, and that he should concentrate on things going wrong in his city, the city he is responsible for, and stop commenting on all of the other things that he does.
Isn't it right that he's trying to get mobility for youth, though, so they can go and work in Paris or Brussels or Rome or wherever it might be?
Yes, but it would be good if he actually managed to get the police in order so we don't have so many young kids getting stabbed.
Has Brexit worked?
I think things could have gone slightly better, but then let's face it, we've had a pandemic in the meantime. We've got wars going on.
Isn't crime technically down in London anyway? I mean, it might be higher than it was during the pandemic, but isn't crime in London in general lower than what it was in like 2019? I might be misremembering these statistics. Let me have a look.
I'm a Brexiteer. I don't apologise for that. And I think, given the course of time...
But also in general, like the idea that Sadiq Khan can't care about multiple things at once, right? That he can't, want to do better by London residents over issues of law and order, but also think that membership of the single market would lead to more opportunities for Londoners, as well as more economic opportunities in terms of prosperity for London as an economic sector. Very, very strange point for her to make.
It will be even more beneficial. I mean, you've only got to look during the pandemic, the way we managed to get the vaccinations so quickly. People forget that. Thank God for that.
Before we go to Hassan, you say slightly better, so things have gone, some of Brexit's gone well. I hear what you say about the pandemic, but those were, as you also say, extraordinary circumstances. Can you point to other things then that have gone well? Because slightly better means things have gone well, I would suggest.
Well, we've got various deals going on, deals being done at the moment to widen the markets.
Trade deals is what you mean?
Yes, sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, trade
countries
deals.
Such as Japan and others.
Yeah,
deals
absolutely. And that will benefit the country, but particularly London, which I'm pleased about. But Sadiq Khan, whenever there's an issue, starts going on about Brexit again.
Let's get to the calls. That's what Hall is about. And it's Hassan in Kensington.
I mean, if you look here, this is the first graph that I found of overall crime rates. And what's interesting as well, that during Sadiq Khan's tenure, the rate of rise in crime has been slower than in the rest of the country, or in England and Wales specifically, which I find very interesting. It has increased in his tenure as mayor. It's not gone down. It's still increased even during the pandemic years, although it was going down slightly beforehand. But if you compare it to the rest of the UK, it's increased at a slower rate. She's claiming Brexit made the vaccination go faster. Loads of Brexiteers continue peddling the lie that our vaccine procurement was helped by not being subject to European Union rules, which just isn't true. It's just not true.
Kensington. Hassan, you're on the radio. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Should the Met be investigating people who are accused of committing war crimes abroad? And also, what is your rating? How would you rate Met on a grade of 1 to 10 based on their performance? Thank you.
Thank you. Stay on the line if you would, sir. This is, of course, a story that came out towards the end of last year. There are posters at Heathrow Airport urging people who think that they might have witnessed or have knowledge concerning any war crimes in the Israel-Hamas conflict to report it to the Met, something I put to the Commissioner last week. Susan Hall?
I've got mixed views on this. To be honest, I'm concentrating on all the issues that are here in London, and I wish the Met sometimes was more concentrating on the issues we've got. But, you know, if people do know of crimes abroad, that's what we do. We do look into various things and pass information on.
Is it the role of the Met, then, to be looking at potential crimes in Gaza when possibly they're not being as active as they could around parts of London?
I wish they could be more active in parts of London, as you well know, Nick. I mean, you've only got to look.
I wonder if she'll get asked about the Casey review. I wonder if she'll at any point have to acknowledge that maybe the Metropolitan Police's failures are because of an internal problem with the Metropolitan Police as an institution, and nothing indeed to do with whether or not Sadiq Khan or Boris Johnson is London Mayor.
Look at that dreadful incident here in Leicester Square, where we are
Where the
now.
studios are.
Yes, that's right, with men being attacked because they were speaking Hebrew. Absolutely damn disgusting is what that is. We need to get a grip of this. We need to get a grip of crime in London.
Would you now? The commissioner of the police, Sir Mark, was with me last week. He pointed out that of every £100 that the Met spends, only 30p in every £100 goes into the war crimes unit. I made the point that those 30p's add up, and it is still a use of resources, manpower, womenpower, whatever you want to call it, personnel. Would you seek to reduce that?
Well, I'd certainly seek to look at it. And I know you're doing a big campaign at the moment about football clubs.
Yes.
Which I thoroughly applaud. I agree with you on that. But I believe that there needs to be a lot of change. But
we're coming to that in a second. Just finally, then,
sorry.
before... No, not at all. Finally, also, the deployment of resources for the Met. You may be aware that they're assessing or looking at a case of potential rape or physical sexual assault on the metaverse. This comes on the day that Interpol says that we might need to establishing better policing of the metaverse. Again, Susan Hall, is it the role of...
What kind of a question is this? Like, if there's only, the only metaverse that we should be concerned about sexual assault in is the Metropolitan Policeverse. As in the Metropolitan Universe. Sorry, that was a terrible joke. But essentially, yeah, if we really want to be policing sexual assault claims, maybe we should be looking at what's happening within the ranks of the Metropolitan Police.
Of the Met to investigate what goes on in the metaverse.
the Met need to be concentrating on what's going on in the streets of London. And we need more police officers on our streets. Londoners need to feel safer. That's what they should be concentrating on.
So you would seek to stop...
Wow, I can't believe I agree with Susan Hall on one thing, that maybe we should be concentrating on crime on the streets and not indeed within the metaverse.
Investigating crimes. Can a physical crime take place on the metaverse that needs a copper?
We need coppers on our streets, as you well know, Nick.
We want more police on the streets. Should we have a look? Yeah, shall we have a look at my file of departments that have had their budgets cut by the austerity governments of George Osborne, Susan? It's the police officers got cut by like tens of thousands during the austerity years, and they've only just been re-recruited in the last few years, and there are still fewer per capita than there were in 2010. So yeah, maybe we should be looking at the blue team as to why there are fewer police being recruited.
Concentrate. Let's get the basics right in London. And the basics are getting more police officers on our street, getting burglaries sorted out, and whatever else. I mean, if you look at anti-Semitic crimes at the moment, they are through the roof. We've got to do.
I wonder how much she'll bang on about the anti-Semitism. I don't think it's incorrect, actually. Hot take. I think it's fine to say that there is a rise in anti-Semitism, a really stark rise in anti-Semitism right now, and that's a point that should be made and made forcefully. That we should be looking into ensuring that we do indeed police these claims, these genuine claims of anti-Semitism, because even though there are plenty of spurious ones about somebody said from the river to the sea near me, that's anti-Semitic, like there are, outside of those spurious claims of anti-Semitism, there are lots of genuine and real anti-Semitism acts of anti-Semitism being committed, and they have increased in stark numbers by thousands of percent. That is a real and present problem that should be tackled. But I wonder how much she's going to bang on about it, because she knows that she can use it as a stick to beat Sadiq Khan with because he called for a ceasefire. Wayne Couzens and David Carrick. Well, yes, exactly. Bastard Dave.
Deal with that.
Hassan, thank you for the first call. Julia is in Barnes. Julia, you're through to Susan Hall. Go ahead.
Morning, Susan.
Good morning.
I'm calling because Hammersmith Bridge will be closed very shortly for 5 years to motorised traffic. What are your concrete plans for tackling this?
Well, you can only have concrete plans when you know what money you've got available. As you know, well, I don't know if you know, so I'll actually point it out. It's quite clear that the mayor has been squirreling money aside for the last few years in order to suddenly, in election year.
Oh yeah, that's true. She doesn't even mention the Islamophobia too, but anti-Semitism has risen more than Islamophobia has, specifically in London as well. So I'm not going to downplay the unique severity of the increase in anti-Semitism specifically. But you're right, she should be mentioning Islamophobia as well, but she won't, because that's not a stick that she can use to beat Sadiq Khan with. And I think I've mentioned this on stream before, but I think it's a really interesting statistic in that actually we're one of the few nations in Europe in which anti-Semitism is not one of the largest per capita kinds of discrimination that you usually see in this country. Rates of anti-Semitism are much higher in European countries than they are in the UK. And that's per capita, per capita of the minority, specifically. But obviously, in the wake of what's happened in Israel and Palestine, that even the small number is increased by a huge amount. Like, I think it's over 1,000%, the increase in rate of anti-Semitic hate crimes being recorded by the police.
Really locate about £500 million. So I need to know what is in the coffers before we start promising anything. I believe it's going to cost £250 million.
Much of the Islamophobia is directed at Sadiq, so of course she won't mention it. Well, yeah, because she's been the one doing the Islamophobia. She was the one who was liking tweets calling it Londonistan and shit like that.
To repair. Certainly, if there's money that can be found that would be able to be used on it, I would. I think there's about 30 bridges in London that go over the Thames. We must get our city moving again. And quite frankly, this is a key bridge. So if there's money there and it can be dealt with, and the two councils can be
who owns
persuaded.
The bridge, Susan Hall?
Well, it's between the two councils. Apparently, it's not very clear. But at the end of the day, the mayor is in charge of London, and if things are not working.
True, and that is true for you, Julius. If you really want to see how racist your common or garden British, both liberal or conservative is, if you want to understand just how racist they are, mention Roma people around them and watch them turn into literally Hitler.
They have to step in. If he can step in with £30 million for his mates in the unions, he can certainly start finding money for an essential bridge like this.
Right, we'll come to that £30 million in just a second. So you're saying that the two local authorities shouldn't have to bear the whole cost, and people who live in Sidcup and Highgate should have to pay to repairing Hammersmith Bridge?
I'm saying let's look and see what money is in the coffers, because it's certainly a very important issue. If I can find the money to fix it,
What if you can't?
Well, let's see what's there.
There's loads of money. Like, again, in 2023, or 2022, the year ending 2023, Sadiq Khan run an £11.5 million budget surplus.
He squirrels away lots of money in various different reserve pots, and that needs to be looked at. The transparency of the budget, it takes something to be desired, to be honest. So let's see what money is there. He's got
I wouldn't be surprised, Cal.
£21 billion budget. He could have dealt with it by now.
Let's get a response from Julia in Barnes. Julia, a response from what you heard from Susan Hall.
Well, I'm a bit disappointed by this response because it shows a basic factual misunderstanding of the case. The bridge doesn't belong to two councils. It only belongs to one council, which is Hammersmith and Fulham. Central government are the only people everyone knows who has the budget to repair the bridge. And it sounds to me like you're making absolutely no promises at all. So the electorate won't bear what you say in mind when it comes to voting on the issue of Hammersmith Bridge.
Before you go, Julia,
She's so fucking shit. She's so terrible at this. I mean, to be fair, this is one bridge somewhere in London. But it's very funny for someone to just go, well, you don't know shit, you just don't know anything. And I think that is something that we should be hearing more on our... We should be hearing more. I mean, again, I guess I'm going to have to call up more of these speak to the politicians things. But it turns out only LBC do these.
Susan Hall
Yeah,
respond.
can I just
You
say
seem to
one
have your
thing?
facts wrong.
No, can I just say one thing?
Well, you
I
have got
will
your
not.
facts wrong, haven't you?
I will not promise anything unless I know where the money is coming from. I have said that from the beginning. Now, by the end of February, we will know what money is available. If there is money, I for sure will do what I can.
I mean, what she really means is, I know that there's a budget surplus because Sadiq Khan is ending the strikes and also funding free school meals. But what she really wants to do is reduce things like business rates. And why I think there's a claim for making business rates a little more stratified to make it easier for small businesses and harder for corporations. Really and truly, we need to know how much money there is I need to know how much money there is I can give in tax cuts and, or local authority cuts or whatever it is. And then tell everybody there's no money left because I've given it all away to people who would previously have been paying tax. Is she the Nadine Dorries of the London mayoral race? Oh, she's way worse than Nadine Dorries, right? Whereas Nadine Dorries is a bit of an idiot, and by a bit I mean a lot of an idiot, I still felt like Nadine Dorries was kind of genuine. But Susan Hall is just a real fucking freakazoid.
Because it is the mayor's job to make sure we've got a moving city. And at the moment, the city is pretty gridlocked. So I won't make promises on the radio or anywhere else unless I know that these promises are funded. I've been listening to Nick for long enough to know that, you have so many different people on promising everything. You should not promise unless you know where the money is going to come from.
All right, so you can't promise more police officers then?
Yes, I can, because I have actually found £200 million. There's a list of places that's going to come from, and that's why I made that pledge.
OK. Why didn't you know who owns the bridge?
Because the two councils have been fighting with each other over it.
It was 1985 that the ownership of the bridge was transferred to the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham.
I've been speaking to Hammersmith and Fulham, and they want contributions
I mean, you
from
agree
other
this
councils.
is a major issue for voters both sides of the bridge?
Yeah, of course it is. It's a major issue for Londoners.
Someone standing as the mayoral candidate should know who owns the damn thing, shouldn't they?
I just know how much it's going to cost to repair.
You don't know who owns it. All right, Julia, thank you for the call. Matthew's at Heathrow. Matthew, you're on the radio. Good morning.
Morning. Hi, Susan. What it is, it's looking like we're going to have a Labour government at the next general election. We see it's not healthy to have an opposition mayor of London. So, I mean, the Conservative government is just playing politics and not really supporting the current mayor. So, I mean, why do you think we should elect a Conservative mayor?
Well, you're making an assumption that Labour will win the next general election. Lots of people make an incorrect assumption that Sadiq Khan will win the London election. I tell you, I'm out knocking on doors all the time. People are sick to death of Sadiq Khan. I can work with anybody.
The polls literally say the complete opposite. The more you speak, the more popular Sadiq Khan becomes, Susan. I think that's very funny to me that essentially she had no profile and she was polling 2 points behind Sadiq Khan. And then she does 2 interviews. There's a couple of stories posted about her. And now his lead is 30 points.
Whichever government is in place, I will work with them. So it can be done. The problem with Sadiq Khan is whenever he's had secret meetings, as it were, or confidential meetings, I should say, then goes out and briefs the press straight away. So consequently, government have been very concerned about telling him various things. When you're told things in confidence, you keep them in confidence. So it's more, in my view, the way the behaviour of the mayor has been wrong.
Matthew, a quick response from you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think for London is the capital of the UK, so really it needs to be working in harmony with the current government. And we just see politics being played over the ULEZ and everything. I mean, we want to save the pollution and save the planet, and London's where it's got to start.
All right, Matthew, thank you for that. I'm reminded, Hassan asked for a score, Susan Hall. I apologise, I forgot to comment. If you may recall the rank, he wanted the Met rank between score 1 to 10, currently your first caller, and I didn't get your rating. Can I get that score before we move on?
With me, it'll be 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10?
When I'm in charge.
You still have faith in the utter incompetence of the Labour Party? You believe they can achieve a hung parliament? I don't think so. I think it's all basically over already. Again, mortgage rates. It's just mortgage rates. Again, I mean, if there's somebody who can fumble the bag, it's Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer is one of the people who could fumble the bag, but I really don't think. I think it's already pretty over, and I think we're all just talking about whether or not it's a slim majority or a complete wipeout.
No, I'm so sorry. Currently, where would you say it is?
Currently, it needs improvement. I will leave it at that because, to be honest with you...
You're not going to give me a score
No,
out
and
of
I'll
10.
tell you for why.
Okay.
Because we have got to support the police. We have got to support the police. We need them. We need them desperately. We have to support them. Sadiq Khan suddenly finds miracle money from all over the place, everywhere, and yet he has not been helping out in the police. And every one of us want to feel...
It's not finding miracle money. It's called running a budget surplus, you fucking idiot.
Safer, Nick.
The miracle money to which you refer is the £30 million that was discovered, as you rightly say, earlier this month. But of course, it did avert tube strikes. You'd have gone ahead with those tube strikes.
Yes, and what are ASLEF doing now?
Well, why don't you tell my listeners what you perceive ASLEF is doing now?
Well, I think we're in for a load more strikes. We've had 139 strikes under Sadiq Khan.
Do ASLEF represent anybody within Transport for London? Because I thought ASLEF were only British Overground. I mean, there were some overground trains, but I think even the TfL overground trains are still mostly unionised under the RMT, if I remember correctly. I think ASLEF only represent drivers on like national rail services, and because I know that tube drivers are represented by the RMT. Let me do a quick Google-arino and find that out. ASLEF Transport for London. Let me have a look. Oh, maybe she is actually right. She is actually right. New train strike dates announced by ASLEF. This is with Rail Delivery Group, though. Thameslink, I guess, gets affected here, and so Southern. But TfL is not being affected here. Operators not involved in industrial action, for example, ScotRail, Transport for Wales. Yeah, like Transport for London are literally not affected by the ASLEF strikes.
We need to put this right.
How would you prevent that high level of strike days?
Well, I certainly think you should help to negotiate with the unions. He just stepped in, threw money at it, and of course the other unions have immediately turned around and said, what about ours? But, you know, the unions fund his election campaign.
How dare Sadiq Khan want working people to be paid fairly during a cost of living crisis when their pay hasn't kept up with inflation? How dare he speak up? I'm going to do the whole fucking segment. I'm not going to go over the weeds again. If you want to know my opinions on all these people getting mad for Sadiq Khan for ending the strikes and for paying workers properly, go and watch my video on YouTube about it.
You must support the tube fare freeze, the £123 million. You want to... Or would you undo? Would you revoke a freeze or take it out?
I go back to my original point. We need to see what money is there. He's obviously...
No, but on Friday, you'll know that on Friday he announced this freeze. Of course you do. Okay, just to clarify. Well, for my listeners then, just give you the benefit. For a single fare freeze on the Transport for London, current levels for 1 year starting in March. All pay-as-you-go fares on Oyster cards, contactless bank cards subject to the freeze. Journey between Zone 5 to 1 at peak times £5.10. There we go. You would undo that?
I don't know. Let's wait and see what the finances are.
So you could undo it?
No, Nick... Sadiq Khan has been screaming that he hasn't got enough money for the last 7 years.
Respectfully, enough of Mayor Khan now. Just for you, would you now undo that? So the freeze would not stay in place?
I suspect it would stay in place. I wonder where the money has come from. Don't forget, he's spent 7 years saying he's got no money, he's been underfunded, and yet suddenly he's got money to do a fare freeze. Oh, guess why? There's an election coming. He'll find other monies for all sorts of other things, and it's because there's an election coming. But in the last 7 years, he's been deprived.
It's a devolved power, the mayoralty of London. He can't just find money. It's not like he can run a budget deficit. If he's not got the money, he can't spend the money. That's how mayoralties work. Either they beg central government for more funding, or they go off their tax receipts. This is because he's run budget surpluses and has loads of money to play with. It's not just money that he's found, it's money that exists within the coffers. It's so dumb, these talking points. Trying to use it as a way of attacking Sadiq Khan as though he was a prime minister and not indeed a mayor.
Various vital services from money, and I would suggest definitely the police, in order that he can have a bumper year now, just before an election, and buy the votes, quite frankly.
Let's go to other calls. I think this is an area you touched on earlier, Susan Hall. Jane's in Richmond. Jane, you're on the radio. Your question, if you would. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Susan. Hi.
Good morning, Jane.
Last week, Nick Rowley, the police commissioner, on the show, and Mark mentioned that London the police budget is currently covering the £18.5 million of policing football participants and football visitors to the capital, and basically policing outside of the stadiums is costing the Met £18.5 million. What's your thoughts on that? And should the police be stumping up the cost or the Premier clubs?
And it's worth, Jane, thank you, it's worth reminding listeners, some of these football clubs, as you're probably aware, Susan Hall, have fabulously rich owners.
Yes, they do. They do. And we've got to look at
18.5. I mean, the weakest left back in the division will probably cost 3 times that amount anyway. So your view on that, Susan Hall?
I do think that we need to look at where we can find money for the police in this respect. I mean, I've been to Tottenham games when, the
I mean, it's very clear she knows exactly the issue she's fighting the campaign on. Issues of crime is clearly her in terms of where she thinks she can win on campaigning. Because basically every single question here has been, well, there's these issues of the finances of London, all these things, and like, well, him paying for strikes is bad because where is he going to find the money for more police? Every single question is just going to come back to this hammering home around the issue of crime and law and order in London. I think that's the angle that she's trying to win the election on.
The lovely police horses are out in this, especially if they're playing against Arsenal. They used to be problem. No.
Are you a Spurs fan?
I am indeed.
You're a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think, because just as I'm sure you're aware, police officers within the ground, Tottenham Hotspur have to pay for.
Yeah.
Anybody, any man, woman or horse outside the ground is down to the Met, as it would be at Arsenal, as it would be at Chelsea, Palace and everywhere else. You'd say it's time some of the clubs paid some of that.
A fraction towards it, yes. And I think that's a good idea. I think they should.
Oh yeah, they were talking about protesters paying for police to show up because they were costing too much. And guess who was tweeting out about his support for such a plan to make protesters pay for their democratic rights? Fucking Baron John Woodcock of Walney, ex-Labour MP, appointed to the Lords by Boris fucking Johnson for backing him in 2019. What a cunt. London should never be short of money because it's the richest region, not only in the UK, but in the whole of Europe. Tax the rich, but we do need to redistribute its wealth across the country. Oh, 100%. I think it's unfair that Sadiq Khan has such a gigantic budget to pay for so the, kids in London can get free school meals. And that's a good thing that he does that, but everywhere else in the country can't afford to do that because all of that money stays in London.
Should.
Why only a fraction?
Well, because they would say that they pay their rates. They would say that they pay towards it in any event. So a fraction can be any amount.
And what's a fraction?
No, it needs
25?
Needs to be looked in. Possibly, it needs to be looked into. And I think the law has to be changed in order to do that.
All right.
Was he the one that was under investigation for dodgy shit in Labour, or was that the other one? He was under investigation by the Labour Party. I think the case remained unresolved because he left, but I'm not sure whether the case was spurious or not. He claims that it was.
Staying with that idea, Jane, thank you for your question. If we expand that, what about the idea of some protest groups paying towards the policing of some of the demonstrations, whether it be pro-Palestinian groups, Extinction Rebellion, Just Stop Oil? Is there an argument they should pay towards some of the policing of that?
Well, isn't this an interesting one? Because we've all, I know, you only ever ask interesting.
Well, I try.
Yes, you do. You do very well. But it is interesting because on the one hand, this is one of the situations. On the one hand, we're all allowed to do, have free speech, go on demonstrations. It's part of our democracy. So it's difficult to say no. Having said that, protests like Just Stop Oil, protests like the ones we've been seeing over the last goodness knows how many weeks, are disturbing. I find it very disturbing that...
Oh no, it's disturbing that people during unprecedented times of political crisis would take to the streets to express their view when loads of politicians are not indeed representing those views in terms of what people want to see in terms of policy. Wow, I can't believe people would protest when their views aren't being responded to by politicians. What a crazy, crazy thing.
Lots of Jewish Londoners don't want to come into London anymore because of it. And that, you see, is totally unacceptable. People don't want to be sprayed with orange paint, wouldn't go near the Just Stop Oil people. But that's totally different to the situation Jewish Londoners are in. And I absolutely feel for Jewish Londoners at the moment. They don't feel safe, Nick.
Let's go to other callers. Lorna.
Let's say exactly. The 2 points she's hammering on is the Sadiq Khan anti-Semitism stuff and about the and talking about crime in London. Didn't ask about the pro-Israel rally. Yeah. It's weird how the police didn't feel like they needed to police the pro-Israel rally as much, even though there was very little evidence of any actual criminality going on at the pro-Palestine protests either. Not anything about Suella Braverman inciting a fucking race riot. True.
As in Loddon, not London, Loddon in Norfolk, but you were in London, is that correct, Lorna? Hello?
Yes, hi. I was driven out because of a lot of Sadiq Khan's changes to the roads around me.
Right.
He basically did a lot of unnecessary work, like narrowed roads in Sussex Gardens from 4 to 2 lanes when it was the only people wandering down there were prostitutes. I hate to say that, but he also put cycle lanes everywhere. He put, I mean, basically, what I'm saying is...
Can I move you to your question, Lorna, if I might? Thank you very much.
No, not cycle lanes! How dare you inconvenience the God-given right for motorists to rule all of our streets? Yeah, like fucking... You're trying to drive in London, you stupid idiot, you stupid fucking cretin. Why are you taking your car to London? Use the fucking public transport like a normal human being. Not having a boiler at this time is terrible, Spexbean. I feel your pain.
Has she got the courage to reverse a lot of the work on the roads that Sadiq Khan has done, which has slowed traffic down, actually caused more pollution, become a nightmare for builders, delivery people, etc., trying to get on with their lives?
So to clarify, you want cycle lanes ripped up, just to clarify, is that what you want?
Not everywhere. I want consultation with the police. With the police, where most people died. So where there's blind spots, with the areas where there's been a lot of cycle deaths, keep those in those areas.
Okay, I've got to move to the question now because so many people want their involvement. Susan Hall.
Yes, I do have the guts to do it. We should come back to London, Lorna, because you agree with what I do. It's war on the motorists, quite frankly. Things that I would do.
Good. I am joining the war on motorists on the side of Sadiq Khan. I will gladly take up arms in the grand war against motorists. Good. I hope, again, if you're driving in London, you're an idiot, you're a moron, you have fucking double-digit IQ if you're taking your car to London. What the fuck are you doing with your life? If you're driving in central fucking London, what are you doing? I don't have anything else to add other than, it's your own fault if you're choosing to take a fucking car to London. Honestly, why would you? Pedestrianise London. Pedestrianise all of it. That last caller had Hot Fuzz vibes. Crusty jugglers.
Get rid of that ridiculous cycling lane on Park Lane that's gridlocks that part of London. We've got 20-mile-an-hour zones on places like the Finchley Road. Utterly ridiculous. Worse than all of these, we've got floating bus stops. If you're blind or partially sighted or disabled, cycles should stop for you if you're trying to cross the road back onto the pavement. They don't. They're really dangerous, and the Association for the Blind are very, very concerned about these. Yes, reducing width on major roads, totally ludicrous, because even if we all sit
how dare our streets be for people? How dare our streets be used for people using their legs to walk places? How dare we not have every single inch of usable territory entirely reserved for people in their tin boxes of death? Yeah, it's true, exactly. Motorists don't stop for you either. And imagine being a Tory concerned about disability. Very, very true. London cyclists are wankers 75% of the time. I don't doubt that, Bilderberg. I don't doubt that. But London drivers are wankers 100% of the time, purely based upon the fact that they have literally taken a car to London.
A traffic jam. It's outrageous that ambulances have to, fire engines have to, police officers have to. We need our emergency vehicles.
Yes, if people stopped taking their cars to London, it would be easier for the emergency services to use the roads that are there. If every one of those drivers who we are literally trying to push out of London because they're terrible for air quality, it's noisy, it's polluting. We don't want drivers in our town and city centres. We want people walking and cycling and taking public transport. But the roads need to be there, and she's right to say that the roads need to be there for access for emergency service vehicles. That's 100% true. You know what would make the roads much easier to access for our emergency service vehicles? If they weren't full of civilians using their cars to get around. It's not a difficult conundrum to solve. Oh, and London roads are chocker, always. Well, exactly, yeah, Dragonfly is 100% correct. Like, delivery drivers, people offloading to businesses and to shops in pedestrianised areas have a better time. Because you don't have huge amounts of traffic when you pedestrianise areas and shit like that. Like, footfall for shops increases as well.
To be able to get through our road. So yes, I do have the guts to do it, and yes, I would be doing it. We need to get London moving again, which is why, going back to the Hammersmith Bridge, if I could find the money to do that, I would. We need our bridges sorted out in London. We need to know that we can keep London moving.
Lorna, thank you. Dan, coming to you for the next question in a moment. You've referenced Mayor Khan a lot. Earlier this month, he talked about this being a year of decision. There's every chance we could see Donald Trump in the White House, Suella Braverman in number 10, and Susan Hall in London's City Hall, said Mayor Khan. Given that one of Donald Trump's most prominent supporters has actually stood down, that becomes even more of a reality. But I read here from Alistair in Hackney. Do you still think the 2020 election was stolen?
No, I think you're referring to an old tweet.
You did say that, says Alistair in Hackney.
Yeah, but that was at the very beginning of something. Oh, listen, we've gone through my
You
tweet.
initially thought the 2020... You
No,
initially thought...
I tweet and like. I used to like things on Twitter, but I will
But just
go
to
back.
clarify, you did initially think the 2020 election was stolen?
No, I did. I think I liked something. As you know, I never
The
intended.
like police are out. You should have put likes and retweets and not endorsements in your Twitter bio, and that would absolve you of basically all wrongdoing.
To go into this sort of level of politics. If not, I probably would not have had a Twitter account because you like things and repeat things that you don't always like.
I don't.
But the one thing that
I don't.
No,
I've
because
never
really
said I like anything that I don't like.
Jeremy Corbyn, shock horror, uses public transport all the time, or he rides his, to quote the Daily Mail, Chairman Mao style bicycle. Jeremy Corbyn, the one acceptable cyclist.
Why would you even countenance it? Well, unless you're going to tell me that the 2020 election was stolen.
Of course it wasn't.
Well, why would you
I
like
don't
something?
know. I don't
You don't know
know.
why you do tweets. That's
no,
you don't think it's
no.
a bit frightening that the mayor doesn't know why she does things.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay,
I think we've been through this before. One often likes it, or you do when you're not. I mean,
Right.
I don't suppose
I'll
you
be
do.
closer to Susan Hall in
Yeah, she is terrible at this. I mean, she's just an entire car crash from start to finish. Because not only is she incredibly unlikable, she's also stupid and has no charisma.
City Hall as a result of Donald Trump. Do you welcome the fact that it would appear his path has been cleared to a degree last night?
Well, what the Americans decide to do is up to the Americans. I'm very glad that Sadiq Khan thinks that I could be in City Hall. He must be being told that by his activists out there knocking on doors, because that's what I'm hearing, knocking on doors.
Dan's in Bermondsey. Dan, you're through to Susan Hall. Go ahead.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Hello.
My question is that earlier on, Susan, you mentioned that you wanted to recruit more police officers. The problem is that Sadiq Khan has been trying to recruit for God knows how many years, and he hasn't been successful. So my question is, how are you going to actually attract people to apply for the police?
Gonna pull them from the magic police officer tree. There's gonna be the magic tree that creates police officers for them to be able to recruit. But turns out they're far less likely to be able to recruit when you make more stringent requirements for what is allowed to become a police officer or not, given what we now know from the Casey review. Yeah, true, they pressed the police button. Literally just pressed the police button. How mental is Susan Hall? Very, very mental. Susan Hall is the Conservative candidate for the Mayor of London, Surly Dev. And she is, as Katie points out in chat, she's literally mental. The Casey review was the report that was done to look into issues of malpractice within the Metropolitan Police. And they found institutional racism, homophobia, and sexism, and a culture that was rife with cover-ups in terms of people within the Metropolitan Police committing things like sexual assault and never being punished for it. Oh yeah, Cressida Dick was an abomination. She was, absolutely. A real cockroach.
And how are you going to improve the calibre of the police officers joining?
That's a very good. Stay on the line if you would.
Yeah, no, it is a good question. And actually, Sadiq Khan screaming at the government for more money.
What's a copper earn?
I think they're on about, I think they start at...
Officers with nicknames like the Rapist. This very specific nickname that I always get reminded of is the David Carrick was literally nicknamed by his own compatriots as Bastard Dave. True story. This is the best person the Conservatives have to be London mayor. Second best, because their main candidate they chose over her found to have been engaging in less than, or it was accused. I think there was an accusations of sexual assault. I think it was. Don't crucify me if that is incorrect. I might be misremembering here, but I believe the previous candidate before her was found to have been accused of sexual assault by somebody else, so was taken off their ballot for it. That was their main candidate. This is their backup candidate.
I think they start about 30-something, and it goes up from there.
Right, so you're seeking to recruit
that.
more officers.
Yeah.
You don't actually know how much they earn.
I think they cost us, Bobby cost about 60k with the ongoing costs. Don't forget, it's not just their wages.
Sorry, £60,000?
I think you have to estimate around 60k because of their pensions and everything else.
Yeah. But what's the starting salary?
I don't know what the one is now. They're being given a 5%. Oh, I probably should.
No. Why should? What does it matter whether she knows this from one singular fucking figure? I hate this shit. I really hate it when politicians are supposed to just know every single individual number for everything off the top of their head. Honestly, it's just the dumbest politics, and I really, really hate it. These stupid gotcha questions. I really, really, really dislike that stuff. What do you mean you don't know the price of a can of Spam? yeah, it's all really silly. I really hate it. So in the last Australian election, one of the big problems for Anthony Albanese is that in one interview he was asked about some figure of what a current I think it might have been what might the median wage have been or some shit, something really inconsequential to know the exact figure for. And he didn't know what it was, and it became this constantly replayed moment for the whole election campaign. I don't even like Anthony Albanese. I think he's a bellend, but it was just such an obvious point at which the news media just are really shit at their jobs. And to Nick Ferrari saying, "Do you think you should know exactly what the salary of a police officer is?" Like, no, that's numbers I'm sure she'll get shown if she becomes mayor. Not that she will, but.
Know what nurses earn and teachers earn.
It's £36,000. So,
there you go. Exactly. Just say it's £36,000, and let's have a conversation from there, rather than expecting them to have a laundry list of individual figures to be able to pluck from the sky, just in the back of their head. It's dumb. It's stupid.
You're going to get more.
Right. So there is a problem with recruitment. I would suggest it's because police are being so bad-mouthed in London by so many, which is why I said to you earlier, we need to support the police.
But so who's bad-mouthing? I mean, I'm not, and I doubt that you are. So who is?
I absolutely am not.
I'm sure you're not. So who is bad-mouthing them?
Well, the gentleman on the phone, Dan, has just said a better quality of officer. Let me assure you, Dan, the vast majority of officers are very good quality. They really are. They are.
We already know that's not true. We already know from the Casey review that's literally not true.
Brave, they run into danger. They need to be supported by all of us. Sadiq Khan has got a checkered history on whether he will or won't support the police. Right. We need to support them, not only in our words and our deeds, but we also need...
Back the blue. Back the blue. Don't clip that out of context.
To support them financially. Now, if there was a better reputation in the Met, then we'd have more people that wanted to go into it. Sadiq.
Yeah, it's weird how they show the bad. They always talk about the bad apples theory when it comes to immigrants. Yeah, they don't do it when it comes to the police, right?
Khan has just given back to the government £90 million, Nick, that the government were prepared to give him to get more officers.
Let's clarify from Dan. Dan, were you bad-mouthing the police when you made that point? Dan?
No, because I'm a police officer myself.
I figured you were, the way you put the question. Do you think that's going to encourage more blokes and women to join up?
Probably not. I think we need to improve the salary.
Right.
We need to improve the working conditions.
Yeah, like, I'm bad-mouthing police. Yeah, I will too. The Metropolitan Police are a fucking garbage fire. Like, police are bad at the best of times, but, like, the Metropolitan Police specifically are just the absolute dirt worst.
The hours we do.
Right.
We need to make the job attractive because there's so many other jobs that are more attractive now than being a police officer.
All right.
So I don't know
glad you
how
do
that's
it?
going to happen.
I know it's not your real
I
name.
love my job.
You do.
I love my job. Yeah.
Well, thank goodness for the courage that you and your colleagues show. We're very, very grateful for the work you do.
And most of them do love their job, seriously.
Yeah.
They are, I mean, but I don't know how long, Dan, you've been in the force, but one of the worst things that ever happened to the Metropolitan Police is when they went over to BCUs, Basic Command Units, when they were actually borough control, when there were borough police officers, they had places they could go to locally, which was much better for the local police. It was a much better system to have a borough-based policing unit, if you like, and therefore police officers on the street knew who to go to.
All right, let's pick up a couple of questions. Yes, we've got time that have come in on. Pam in Worcester Park. I've heard Susan Hall talk about the underground, about bicycle, about cars. What about buses? We need more buses. Where are you on bus? Would you try and bring about more buses, Susan Hall?
Yes, I would, because
where's the money coming from for that?
Exactly, which is why. But you see, this is why, Nick, I keep saying to you, let's see where the money is when he brings in his final budget, because every year that I've been on the Assembly, suddenly £200 million every year around that figure has appeared from the draft budget to the main budget. There's no...
Yes, that he has extra tax receipts because things are predictions, and then if you want to ensure that you meet your budgetary requirements, you undershoot rather than overshoot. If you think, well, my tax take is probably going to be this, but I want to ensure that I don't overspend so I don't promise things that I can't deliver, you will then underestimate your tax take so that if you get a budget surplus, you can spend it later. And that's what he's done all the fucking time. Because again, it's devolved. If he overspends, he has to beg the government for extra funding, which they probably won't give him. He can't just issue bonds to overcome like a budget deficit.
Transparency in his budget at all. So let's see what money there is there. And then I will make the pledges. And when I make a pledge, it will be kept.
Would you alter bus fares?
You're going back to finance
But
again.
what is the bus fare? How much do you pay to get on a bus currently?
I don't use them. I use trains all the time.
You don't know what a bus fare is?
No.
Susan Hall, you don't know who owns Hammersmith Bridge, you don't know what a police officer makes, and you don't know the bus
I
fare.
said to you in the 30s as you fall off.
I just don't care. Like, again, it's a funny gotcha moment for like 5 minutes, but it doesn't actually have any kind of real like weight in terms of scrutinizing somebody's policy. No.
No, I use lots of trains to get around London.
£1.75 is a bus fare, okay, but that can get you from Southgate to Croydon if you hop on and off. Don't we need to...
Can I help you understand the current Tory proposed bill to make homelessness illegal? Surely this cannot be true. Locking up citizens for nothing more than having no fixed abode is just wrong. And where are they going to fucking put these people? How are they going to pay the money when they don't have any money? Where are they going to put them when the prisons are full? And why are they doing it in the first place when it's their fault that they failed on the housing crisis to give these people a place to fucking live? I guess because they want to drive a wedge between like the anti-immigrant communities and the anti-homelessness people and say, oh, well, we can't, or they might say, oh, well, we have to punish the homeless because there's no social housing left because all the immigrants have it or some shit. Is that the kind of thing they're looking at? I don't even know. But it's just, conservatives are just subhuman cockroaches who are unworthy of being treated as basic humanity. Like, fuck it, just hate them, just cunts. I wish I could give you more, I wish I could give you like a more erudite and more interesting take than just insults, but like when you just look at the Conservative government saying, yeah, we're just going to criminalise existing as a homeless person, it's like, how else can I describe this other than just calling these people subhuman? Like, what else can I add to this discussion of criminalising homeless people other than just calling Conservatives what they are, which is absolute fucking vermin? Scum. Subhuman scum, yeah.
to review some of that. I mean, that is an incredible value for money. That's the width of London you've traversed, almost, I don't know, Richmond to Sidcup for 175.
Yeah, which is why buses are good, but I don't know the profitability, and I don't know whether... I know Sadiq Khan has cut a load of buses, so we need to be looking at that, because that will affect local
But again, you
people.
need closer inspection of the budget. You can't say
Yeah,
what
you
bus
know,
where.
yeah,
until-
listen,
Go
Nick,
ahead,
over the
go ahead.
years, I have heard you criticise people because they promise left, right and centre. I've been listening to you for 20 years, and you say that, and congratulations, by the way, for that. And I listen to you say they promise this and that, and they don't know where the money's come. I'm saying to you, there's lots of things I'd like to do, but it's impossible for me to say until I know what money is there. Because I guarantee you, when I'm Mayor of London, whatever I've said to you I will do it.
I know you have an important event to go to. Can I take one last question?
Yes,
I know
We'll
I
do it unless the budget says no.
want to make you late to that event. You have to go. Sarzana is in Croydon. Sarzana, briefly, your question, if you would.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, it's just quick question. It's two questions really, but they're linked together. So, morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Quick question is that at the moment figures show that there's an increase in Islamophobia within London and nationwide.
Hey.
I want to know what you will be doing to help combat that, and at the same time, personally, I would like to know, how can we tell by looking at someone whether they're Jewish or not? Because I find that really hard to kind of differentiate. So.
Okay.
Because obviously people they look European, so but by looking at them, I wouldn't know that they're kind of Jewish. As well.
Bit of a dodger, bit of a sus question, this one. First, isn't Islamophobia bad? But second of all, how do you know someone's really Jewish? Yeah, maybe don't include those two questions together. Breaking out the calipers and LPC. Yeah, exactly. They could just be a white Muslim, though, Big Fuzz. I wonder if the researcher, because they have researchers for this shit, to screen your questions. Do you think they screened the second half of her question here? Is this just Diane Abbott putting on a voice? Sorry. Too soon, chat?
So if you could quickly answer those questions for me, please.
Sarzana, thank you.
Okay.
Any order you like.
Right,
How would
okay,
you...
but
I mean,
we've
you're
got to-
right to point to discrimination against Jewish people. Unfortunately, Islamophobia is up, according to the Commissioner of the Met, sometimes 5-6-fold. How would you address that, Susan Holt?
Well, it is just the same way as anti-Semitism is up. Anti-Semitism is up way over 1,000%.
So how is it to be addressed?
Well, the problem is the war, isn't it? That's what's causing this. We just need to come down hard on people when we see anything like that going. I would say to Londoners, if you see...
Because I think there is at least some amount of that 1,000% is people making spurious claims based upon pro-Palestinian messaging, but even outside of that percentage, there's still a massive increase in genuine anti-Semitism anyway. So I'm not gonna poo-poo the idea that there is a rise in anti-Semitism, because there certainly is.
it going on, if you hear these things, challenge people for it. We need to challenge people. You know, if you're...
What about calling London Londonistan? Right? Is that Islamophobia, Susan? Is the call coming from inside the house?
friends are saying something that's racist, then damn well challenge.
I mean, I get where the questioner is coming from. I get where they're coming from, but you know, the idea. But the problem is that the subtext of the question here is that, well, how do you know there's anti-Semitism happening if people aren't specifically targeting people that they can't necessarily tell that they're Jewish? When you know, when the genuine case of anti-Semitism will be when people already know anyway, or when it becomes part of a conversation. You know, like come on, use your brain. There's obviously going to be cases where it is obviously going to be anti-Semitism, but the implied context of the question is that the entire claims of the rise in anti-Semitism are like de facto spurious when we know that's not true.
Them, I would. So, you can't just leave everything to the police. We all need to. If you hurt somebody, Nick, I'm damn sure you'd say, don't say that.
Would. And Sarzana's point, how can you tell? I mean, I think Sarzana, in some instances, of course, people should have the right, if they want to wear a Star of David, to wear a yarmulke, to wear a face veil in a city such as London. I'm sure you would agree.
Yes, I mean, I thought that goes without saying. We're not gone full Macron yet.
You can wear,
of course.
Yeah. So that to answer Susanna's point,
well,
you should
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, news that broke on the weekend. Just a quick word on this. It will affect so many Londoners. We're about to talk about it. They could be getting rid of the Saturday Post. Now, I know this doesn't fall on the Mayor's watch. I understand that, but this is savings that are trying to be made by the Royal Mail. A lot of listeners, a lot of voters here. We don't always get the Mail as it is. Just a quick view, if you would, on the idea that they are consulting to get rid of Saturday deliveries. Susan Hall.
Well, you've just said it, Nick. Nothing in days gone by. We used to have 2 deliveries a day. You're nodding, so you remember it like I do. I mean, now if my daughter sent.
Wow, I can't believe that things are worse now than when you were growing up. I wonder what's changed to huge swathes of our institutions that's gotten to the point where they've started failing to deliver the basic level of social utility that they used to before. I wonder what's different, Susan. I wonder what could possibly different about the Royal Mail as an institution between when you were growing up and since, 2013 perhaps? I wonder what specific thing might have happened in 2013 that might have made Royal Mail act in terms of the profit motive instead of functioning with regards to social utility. I wonder why this could possibly be different. Can you tell that this is dripping with sarcasm, chat? Who knows? I did post a TikTok about this. I did actually post this on TikTok because Fraser Nelson was getting mad about this too, despite the fact the Spectator ran multiple articles talking about why Royal Mail should be privatised. Oh, we're a Saturday paper magazine. I can't do Fraser Nelson's fucking grotesque accent, so I'm not going to try. But I'm just going to I'm just going to do a fucking high-pitched voice anyway. Oh, well, we can't have... How are Saturday magazines supposed to survive with no Saturday delivery? Oh, no. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you got what you fucking wanted, mate. Could it be migrants? Yeah, it's the boats. The boats cause it to stop.
Birthday card to a friend of hers, sent it with 3 days before the birthday. A week later, she said the birthday card had just turned up. So, to be honest, things are so bad that I don't think people would particularly notice.
I mean, the CWU should be doing what Unite is doing with the steel industry. So Unite is trying to force Labour outwardly to support the steel industry. The CWU should be doing the same thing about Royal Mail. The CWU should be using their political funds outside of the Labour Party to be funding a campaign calling for mail nationalisation. Because it's fucking ridiculous that it's still privatised.
But it's not much of a service because the cost of a stamp has gone up.
100 days to go. How confident are you?
I'm confident. I am confident. People are fed up.
Be double figures tomorrow. Be down to double figures. You can make them because you're a long way behind in the...
Yeah, it literally is Stuart Lee doing a derogatory accent, yeah, 100%. Yeah, but power, not protest. Well, that's the dumb... I mentioned this on stream, but I mentioned it again. That was the dumbest thing about David Lammy talking of